All right, and we're live. Let me just make sure this is going out okay on the YouTubes, as always. And come on. Big old delay. Come on. Can you guys not hear me? It doesn't sound like there's any sound. Nobody can hear me. I can't hear anything. Okay, God damn it. Hang on. Okay, you guys can hear me. No, I saw you guys. There's a delay in the chat. All right, well then, shit. Why can I not hear anybody? All right, well, there it is. All right, that was a technical issue on my phone. Problem. For some reason, my speakers on the laptop reverted to mute. Last time I had to update whatever. Okay, sorry for the little technical problems there at the beginning, but that was my bad. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. Perils of a live stream. Anyways, a few things I want to talk about tonight. First things first. The guy from Lincoln Park killed himself. I think we mentioned that. I mentioned that last night because everybody in the chat was talking about it. But this is an interesting story. I'm not going to read the whole story. It's just Korn's Brian Welch calls Chester Bennington, which is a Lincoln Park guy, a coward. Basically, he's he's shitting on the guy because he's like, you gave up on your kids, your fans, your life. It's a coward's way out, all that good shit. And I'm inclined to agree with him. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not generally inclined to agree with a white guy trashy enough to wear dreadlocks. I mean, I happen to think Korn is fucking garbage. My high school sweetheart fucking adored that band. God, I always thought it was degenerate fucking noise. But when a guy's right, he's right. You basically this faggot basically abandoned his kids because he was sad. I mean, come on. What the fuck, man? This guy had a big family, rich, famous. He had so much to live for. And, he just couldn't fucking cope with the fact that, he was in a shitty band like Linkin Park. I don't know. But, no, seriously, all joking aside, he left a whole bunch of kids and a widow. And that's fucking ain't right, man. I don't have anything but scorn and contempt for the guy. I don't care that he was sad. Fuck you. We're all sad. It's just fucking life. Makes you sad a lot of times. And you fucking man up and deal with it. But yeah, I mean, I hated Korn. I always thought Korn sounded like just fucking noise. But then again, most modern rock music does to me. So, but the one good side of Korn is that it did make my high school sweetheart, generally more inclined to want to suck on my penis. So it had that going for it, When she listened to it, she was happy, and that usually made her want to have sex with me. So, young love and all that. Let's see, what else did I want to chat about today? Spicer resigned. Sean Spicer, the press secretary. I kind of like Sean Spicer. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's things not to like about him. He was all for the Syria strike. He's a bit of a neocon ultimately, but he had some balls. He was very good at telling the press to shove it. I mean, ideally, you'd get somebody like fucking Ann Coulter as press secretary. you imagine that? Calling on people. Yes, the faggot from the New York Times. That. Go full fucking stop. Somebody says that's the epithet right there. My music said made hoes suck dick. Well, no, it was Korn's music that, you know, I got her a fucking Korn CD the one time for her birthday, and she was so happy, mostly because she knew I fucking hated it, and then I got it for her, and I'm like, this is, you're getting this under the, the agreement that you never attempt to play this in my car. But anyways, moving on. Yeah, Sean Spicer out. Every time somebody leaves the Trump administration, the leftist media wants to be like, this is the end. Oh, I guess he couldn't take being in this administration, so fuck you. I hope he picks somebody even that triggers fucking leftists even more. Somebody says, what's a CD? Yeah, I know. I'm old. Let's see. CDs they were called albums. Before that, they were tapes. Before that, they were records. And they were actually how the music industry used to make money before everyone just pirated music. And, the shitty state of the music industry is the result of nobody fucking buying albums anymore. That's how it got even worse along the lowest common denominator than it did. Oh, another interesting thing. Last night I mentioned the Sonic comic was done. And, the one Archie did, it was a continuation of the old Sonic the Hedgehog comic or cartoon with Princess Sally and characters like that, the Freedom Fighters and that sort of thing. And it continued that universe, and it brought in elements from later games and whatnot. But anyways, it just very unceremoniously had the plug pulled on it. It's looking now more like that might have been a decision on the part of Archie. As I said last night, they sort of screwed over the Capcom license with Mega Man. Archie wanted to be all mature all of a sudden. And even though that shit was printing him money. And now Sega just announced they will have a partnership with IDW going forward, coming in 2018, another Sonic comic. I'd like that to be a continuation of the already established lore. There's some people that were saying like, oh, they couldn't do that because Archie owns the Freedom Fighters, which is nonsense. Archie doesn't own any of those fucking characters. No character that was created in that comic book is owned by Archie. Now, I know there was the lawsuit with Ken Penders, and that was a big mess. But at least with the original Freedom Fighters, Archie certainly couldn't claim they owned it because those characters were actually developed for the cartoon. Now, while the comic book came out before the cartoon, you have to remember with a cartoon, things are in the works a lot more longer than a comic book. So the creators of the comic book actually had access to the behind the scenes stuff of both of the Sonic cartoons at the time, even the fucking Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which if you've never seen it is pure fucking insanity. That is not good. Anyways, so the idea that Archie owns those characters is nonsense. The only other people that would have claim to those characters would be the animation studio that fucking worked on that cartoon, but they've never attempted to. I'm sure that was all just owned lock, stock, and barrel by Sega. So as I said, I would like to see a continuation of the other comic. I don't know. We'll see. IDW does really good stuff. IDW is one of those comic book companies, much like Dark Horse, that, they don't own a thing. They just publish other shit, but they do really good stuff. Somebody says, didn't they add more characters? Oh yeah, they added tons more characters that weren't in the cartoon, but almost all of those are owned by Sega. There was this really weird lawsuit by a writer named Ken Penders, where basically he created like some characters that were like Knuckles' Lost Tribe, and then one of the Sega games didn't use those characters, but they sort of just used. Basically, they used those characters and changed them slightly and changed the name, and it really pissed this writer off. And he sued, and I don't remember exactly how the lawsuit was settled. First of all, he shouldn't have had any ground to stand on. You know, you create an obviously derivative character working on someone else's property. Yeah, you don't own that fucking character. We've been through this shit in the comic book industry where fucking Todd McFarlane thought he should own Venom. You know, no, it doesn't work that way, dipshit. You know, you took the black costume and added teeth. All right. You know, original the character, don't steal. That was the original the character, please don't steal. But yeah, I think they kind of like, just to make the lawsuit go away, they changed a bunch of stuff in the comic book with like a soft reboot. There was this big reality altering machine called the Genesis Wave Robotnik used to recreate the world in his own image. And then when the world got restored, things were slightly different. That was their way of soft rebooting to get rid of the shit that Ken Penders is actually fucking online doing his stupid, nobody gives a shit original the character comic books based on Knuckles' Lost Tribe or some shit. And it's just this weird furry fucking soap opera. Ken Penders was responsible for putting a lot of depth into that comic book, but he stayed on way longer than he should have, and it just turned into just crawling up his own ass. Somebody says all superheroes and fictional properties should be within public domain after 25 years. I don't quite agree with that. I think if there's I would say 25 years dormant, maybe. If nobody's doing anything with it for 25 years, but if there's a company out there that owns it and is continuing to make it stay relevant, then yeah, I think they deserve to continue to own it. I do think there should be some somebody says, were the Knuckles tribes people from the things from the Sonic Adventure game? I think they were in Sonic Adventure, but I think that's the game they were in, but they were in the comic book first. Although basically they just changed the names and look slightly. But I mean, admittedly, Sega did just copy Ken Penders' ideas without actually using his characters, and that would have pissed me off too. I would have tried to sue because you didn't have a leg to stand on. But I would have been pissed off. I mean, what was the joke? Sega might as well have named the character fuck Ken Penders. But again, that comes to, you know, the Sega Japan that was writing these games thought they knew better than a lot of people, and they didn't. The storytelling in the games has almost always been at best weak compared to this comic, and usually shit. Let's see. Bechtloff, did you hear that Matt Forney is now on the ADL hate list as a Holocaust denier or Holocaust reporter, whatever? Yeah. I mean, fuck the ADL. I mean, they're only making fools of themselves. They're putting motherfuckers like Gavin, and I mean, Gavin's basically a fucking Zionist. All right. Oh, you know, I'm pretty sure they put Gavin on that list. I don't know. I only fucking grazed the list because life's too short to be reading an ADL article. And I knew I wasn't on it, so fucking who cares? Hey, Bechtloff, you think you could convince Styx Hex and Hammer 666 to come on your show? I don't know. I mean, I don't really follow the guy that much. I enjoy some of his videos, but I'm not a huge fan that watches him all the time. So I wouldn't even know where the hell to contact him. I know he has a Twitter, but he supposedly barely uses it. But I wouldn't mind getting him on the show. Trust me, there's a lot of people I wouldn't mind getting on the show. And they're not necessarily people that I'd want to even be buddies with or that I agree a ton with. They're just people I think are reasonable, and it would be interesting to talk to them. The idea that, people have this idea that, like, well, if you have them on your show, it means you're totally on their side. That's not the case. I have a lot of fucking issues with Styx. His Satanism / dark paganism / whatever LARPy bullshit he's into now. I mean, honestly, it looks like. No, I'm not going to take pot shots at him. I mean, I don't. No. He hasn't actually pissed me off, so I don't want to take pot shots at him. But I mean, and again, I've enjoyed some of his videos. I don't really have a problem with him, but I'm not like, oh, I'd love to get him on. But it would be nice to have him on, chat for a while. Honestly, if I was bigger and could wrangle in guests more, I would love to just do regular panels. Like, just even just half an hour to 45-minute segments of 3 to 4 guys. And guys that are used to being on the air, so they're not going to be constantly interrupting each other and shit like that. But yeah, I'd love to do something like that. So he says, do you think John McCain will drop dead in the next 6 months? I hope so. Bechtloff, how would you handle the Amish question? All joking aside, I mean, yeah, helicopter rides and ovens. No, seriously, all seriousness aside, let's say I'm the fucking governor of PA. I can push through legislation and it's going to get done. It's quite simple. What we're going to do, we're going to ban the buggies off the road. Full fucking stop. No fucking horse and buggies on the road. That's gone. Number 2, we're going to begin. I'm going to have I don't even know what the agency's called off the top of my head. Whatever the state EPA is here in PA. Off the top of my head, I don't know the agency's name. Might just be, Pennsylvania Environmental Protection Agency. I don't know. Whatever. But point is, whatever they are, I'm going to start going after the Amish farms and the massive environmental regulations that are already on the books that they ignore, particularly when it pertains to the waterways. And I'm going to start writing some motherfucking fines. And if they don't want to pay the fines, they're going to do some motherfucking time. And that'd be the end of it. And that would be the end of my political problems with them. If you just actually made them obey the fucking law and got the buggies off the road, that'd be the fucking end of it. I mean, if you want to be backwards and sit in the fucking dark with a candle and think God hates soap, I mean, that's fucking retarded. But, that's no skin off my back at the same time. Let's see. Somebody says, sadly, I think Stan Lee will pass away soon. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I swear that guy's like a fucking vampire, though. It's like, he looks the same since the day I was fucking born. It's like he got old and then just stopped aging after that. Like, he turned into a vampire when he was already an old man. Just so you know, we have Amish in South Carolina and they use cars. You just have the touristy Amish in PA. Are you sure that's not Mennonites? Now, I do know the Amish in this area use cars when they will have people drive them, which, again, that's fucking retarded. If it's wrong to drive a car, then it's wrong to pay someone to drive a car. But yes, to the earlier comment, Stanley is getting old. That's a shame. You know, he seems like a cool dude. Diversity in Comics did a really good art video, and by the way, that channel's fantastic. If you, I haven't even watched a ton of them, but every time I've watched one, they've just been, this is great. And he talked about, you know, Stanley and Jack Kirby and how they were back in the day, and that they'd both, you know, served, and that they'd actually lived fucking lives. You know, they had jobs. They, you know, they had kids by the time they created all this stuff. You know, they had failed a bunch in life. You know, I mean, never trust a man that's never had a failure, because it generally indicates he's never truly tried. Someone's covered for him or whatever his whole life. And you know, they've been in fist fights. They gotten a dick's wet. You know, I mean, they had families. They were men, and you know, no one in charge um, of Marvel right now, with only a handful of exceptions, no fucking adults in charge. You know, you get some 22-year-old to write a superhero story. Well, he's never fucking lived life. What's he going to draw from to write? You know what I mean? Yeah, there's no adults in charge at Marvel right now. That's the biggest problem. Um, Bechtloff, do you watch Jesse Lee Peterson at the Fallen State on YouTube? He's really good. No, I'm not familiar with that channel at all. Sorry. Somebody is asking if Harini and Forney have jobs. Yes, they both do. I mean, shit, they're both more employed than I am. I'll tell you that much. You know, I'm the fucking neat right now. Which, by the way, do check out that that donation button down there, Goy. Send me some shekels, because Lord knows I fucking need them right now. Although I do have a decent interview up this week, so hopefully that goes somewhere. Let's see. Going through the chat. Somebody says Arini used to put out videos. He's not putting out videos now. I don't know. Why don't you work back off? I was laid off a few months ago. I haven't found another full-time job. How about doing Uber? You know, I've kind of thought about doing that. Let's see. Somebody says, everything you say about the Amish, I can apply to the gypsy community in Ireland. Complete law unto themselves, brought up to be criminals from a young age. Right. You know, it sucks when you have this group of people in your midst that, you know, they're basically above the law and nobody's fucking doing anything about it. And let's see, can you make money doing Uber? I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. So he says nothing is worse than gypsies. Again, I wouldn't really know that much, but you know, I mean, you know, being ripped off is called being gypped for a reason. Let's see. Hey, do you think that the ADL watches this or some of the other streams and chats? I highly doubt anyone at the ADL does. In fact, given I don't think Arini was on the list, and I know their information on Matt Forney was just objectively wrong to the point where a basic Google search would have told them otherwise. So no, they don't. They don't listen. They've never listened to half of the people they accused of being hateful. All right. Do you watch Leak Project? I can't say I do now. I wish I was on the ADL watch list. You gotta piss them off harder then. I don't know. Arini, of all people, wasn't on the list. Well, yes, much to Thunderfoot's chagrin, Arini was not on the list for his Holocaust denial. I don't know how anyone can say that with a straight face. The idea that there's this thing that happened in history that no one is allowed to question. I mean, shit, doesn't that make you want to question it? If I spam the ADO with hate mail, will I eventually make it on the list? Maybe. Um, so Anti-Dem says just back from Dunkirk, the movie, not the battle. Highly recommend. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to the movies again in a while, though. I got to say, the assigned seating that both of my theaters in my county are doing is that really has me pissed off. Especially because half the fucking good seats are just unavailable. And you'd think, well, people buy them early or something. But no, like the whole movie, no one's up there. Like they don't let you sit in the good seats. Um, Somebody says the Holocaust is irrelevant. It's been 70 years. Move on. Yeah, that's kind of where I am. Anti-Dim says Undertow and I are going to see Kiki's special our delivery service in theaters this weekend. Then going shooting next week. Oh, cool! You can go shooting with Sam Hyde. Yeah. But no, somebody actually on Gab was talking about because I'm often shitting on Gook tunes and I'm bad with pronouncing Japanese names, but the guy who did Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke, I believe he did that Kiki's Delivery Service too. I was saying I like his movies a lot. I mean, there is some manga shit that I've liked. I read that one about the town that's haunted by the spirit of spirals or whatever. That one's pretty good. Uzumaki, I think it is. It starts off really strong. It kind of peters out. Like the writer didn't really know where he was going with it. I read some of the original Astro Boy, and that's really good. That's just charming as hell. I read Attack on Titan, or the first volume of that, and that was overrated. Same with Rom the One Half. I read the first few volumes of that. It's not terrible. It's not bad, really, but it's overrated as hell. But most of the popular anime is what I fucking hate. Like Dragon Ball Z, I think is ass. I really don't get what the hell people see in that. Same with fucking Naruto. That's fucking shit. Sailor Moon was shit. Although at least back in the day you could whack to Sailor Moon, because back then we didn't have internet porn, so we had to make do. Let's see. Somebody says Dragon Ball Z is something you watch with friends with beer. I mean, I guess you got to be pretty fucking drunk to enjoy that shit. Jolly Crocodile says about Sailor Moon, she's 14, Bechtloff. Yes, well, at the time, so was I, so. Bechtloff, I think I sent you Kino's Journey on a flash drive. You really should watch it. It's good stuff. Yeah, I do have that flash drive around here. I've been meaning to dig into what was on it. Dragon Ball Z is what you watch when you're younger than 10. I had a roommate that was super into that, and I watched a ton of it with him because he was watching it all the fucking all the fucking time. And I'm like, I don't fucking get the appeal. Of course, that roommate was a stoner, so. Anti-Dem says King of the Hill is all in the family for red states. I'm not sure where that came from, but all right. Of course, we all know that the best anime is Cory in the House. Um, Bechtloff inserts the flash drive and gets the amazing atheist dance of his people video. That would be fucking hilarious. You gotta check out this awesome anime. It's just fucking amazing atheist dancing with Dot oil on his balls. Oh man, I gotta do that to somebody. I hope fucking Undertow isn't listening. I should send that to him. Undertow, I saw the most amazing anime. The stoner roommate explains his Dragon Ball Z love. Yep. Coordinate House is amazing anime. Each frame almost looks real. Does Undertow still listen to these? I believe he does. I know he's commented on some stuff before. Bechtloff, how is Undertow doing anyways? Any chance of him coming back for a visit? Maybe. I mean, I'd love to have him on. In fact, if his schedule permitted, and I've talked to him about this, but I mean, right now his schedule doesn't permit. But I actually would want to bring him on as sort of a behind-the-scenes guy. I'd like to bring him on essentially as kind of a producer, sort of a call screener type thing. Because I like doing the callers, but the way I do it needs a little work. So, you know, if like callers contacted him and he sort of did the typical behind the scenes producer thing of coaching them and, you know, screening out the dumbasses and that sort of shit. Like the producers do on talk radio. That would actually be very helpful. But right now his schedule doesn't permit such a thing, so somebody says Animu / My Little Pony is popular because it isn't blatantly paused. That could be part of it. Somebody says same thing with Harry Potter and even Star Wars, in my opinion. People keep watching kid shit as an adult because they want to pretend they're nerdy when they're just kids. But you know, there's something to that. I think Star Wars and Harry Potter, if there's one thing they both have in common, it's that they are the most basic bitch of sci-fi and fantasy, respectively, you can get. Mind you, I don't even think either one of them is that particularly bad. The original 3 Star Wars movies are good movies. I think the Harry Potter flicks, I've never read the books, but I think the Harry Potter flicks are decent popcorn flicks with some interesting, I don't want to say ideas, but interesting world building going on in them. That said, though, the sheer just staggering amount of popularity these things have, I don't understand. Somebody says the latest Harry Potter movie, Strange Creatures and Where to Find Them. Actually, I think it was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but it was actually pretty good. No fucking entitled kids. I would actually be interested in seeing more spin-off movies of Harry Potter because the Harry Potter movies are not that good. But again, there's interesting world building going on in there. Spin-off movies have potential to be pretty damn good in that. I don't get the Walking Dead popularity. I don't really get it either. I mean, it's okay, but it's just another zombie thing. So we said our culture is profoundly mentally regressive. We don't even produce functional adults anymore. Yeah, and one thing Diversity in Comics mentioned, one of the problems with the current comic book writers is none of them fucking know anything to draw off of. Nobody, back in the day, everyone was at least familiar with the classics. You know what I mean? So, old mythology and literature and shit like that. And now nobody is. Somebody says everyone I know is a man/woman child. Yeah. Yeah. Millennials not having kids is a big contributor to that. Yeah, having kids, it definitely matures you. Generally, I mean, not always. I mean, I'm not going to walk around imagining single moms are fucking mature or some shit like that. But so he says the comic writers don't have kids and they are trying to portray how teenagers would act. It's funny you say that. Like, I remember back in the day, Tom DeFalco was a writer for Spider-Man a lot. He created Spider-Girl over at Marvel, the alternate future, where it was like Peter and MJ's daughters, had inherited her father's abilities, so she became her own superhero. Pretty decent book. There were a few spin-off books from that that took place in the same world, like one of the son of the Juggernaut trying to be a hero. That was kind of interesting. J2 it was called. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. Point is, Tom DeFalco, one of the things I remember him writing was a Green Goblin series in the 90s, which was like this teenage character had stumbled across a stash of like Green Goblin stuff and just decided to become the Green Goblin. He was more or less a hero, but kind of in a really selfish, spoiled teenage way where, he's half-assing it and shit like that. But Tom DeFalco has always written kind of wooden dialogue. He's just never been all that good at dialogue. Not a bad writer by any stretch, but his dialogue's kind of wooden. And it never felt more so than when he was writing teenagers. And so many of his books were teenagers. And his attempt at the hip lingo came off really fucking, at times, cringeworthy. That said, though, what I'm really struck with is when I look back on those books, the dialogue aside, how much more true to life he portrayed teenagers than basically the overgrown teenagers in charge of Marvel now. Somebody says, are zombies implied to be a hive mind, or is that to find? I mean, not in any of the zombie stuff I'm familiar with. Tom DeFalco was good in the 80s when he'd fill in for an Amazing Spider-Man issue. Tom DeFalco was very good. I used to shit on Tom DeFalco a lot back in the O's, back in the 2000s, as it were. It's almost just a relic past his prime. But shit, right now I wish we had him back. The 2000s were such a great decade for comics. And he'll say it to me on Twitter a lot, but it always drives me nuts, that argument Black James once always had me, whether he's like, we got rid of the Image founders and now we're stuck with all this SJW shit. And it's like, no, we had this whole decade of fucking amazing comics in between. Somebody says, Bechtloff, ideal Marvel movie, go. Well, I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed a lot of the Marvel movies. And, I mean, at some level, I don't mean to take them for granted, because you have to remember, a mere 10 years ago, the idea of there ever being an Avengers movie, let alone one that was good, and I do think it was a pretty solid flick, the idea of this shared universe, these multi-movie franchises all tied together, the idea of them even attempting to do something like that was, insane. You could have never hoped for that. So when it comes to movies, at least, this past decade has been very, very good to superhero fans. So I'm almost hard pressed to say, oh, what would I really love to see? What would I really? Well, I mean, I'd love to see a fucking Justice League movie that actually has the big seven in it, but the mess that is the DC cinematic universe, we'll set that aside for now. Although Wonder Woman was really damn good. But some ones I'd like to see that would actually be kind of fresh to the general public. If Sony insists on doing side projects with all these Spider-Man properties they own, like they supposedly are working on a Black Cat and a Silver Sable movie, like anybody's gonna fucking watch that. It's not even gonna be tied to the fucking current Spider-Man movies, and then the same thing with a Venom movie. That's all fucking disastrous. If they insist on doing something spin-offy that isn't tied to the current shit, I would say either go Spider-Girl or Spider-Man 2099. Both of those, anyone who's familiar with Spider-Man, even if they're not familiar with those concepts, it's easy enough to know what the hell's going on. Spider-Girl, well, okay, it's Mary Jane and Peter's daughter becoming her own fucking superhero. Or Spider-Man 2099, it's, the year 2099 and someone takes up the mantle of Spider-Man. That would be very, very cool. Another thing I would very, very much love to see, and the time window is closing on this shit, would have been to see the Fantastic Four brought into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If for no other reason than the relationship in the comic books between Doctor Doom and Iron Man is a very interesting one. In much the same way where Doctor Doom has a huge hate boner for Reed Richards, and Reed Richards really doesn't care about Doom. I mean, he cares because Doom keeps fucking with him. But if Doom just, stopped doing that, Reed wouldn't give a shit. You know what I mean? There's sort of the inverse of that with Iron Man and Doctor Doom. Iron Man has a huge fucking hate boner for Doom, and Doom doesn't give two fucking shits about Iron Man, aside from the fact that he's yet another superhero that frequently opposes him. But he has no more fucking personal animosity towards Iron Man than he does any other fucking Avenger or Spider-Man or the X-Men or Daredevil or anybody. They're just people that may or may not be standing in his way. So it would be kind of interesting to see that on the big screen. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor. You could definitely pull that off. You get the right actor for Doom. You could have something there. Somebody says Spider-Man 2099 was pretty based. There was some politically correct bullshit in it. For example, it was all about fucking pushing like race mixing and that sort of shit, like way out the ass. Like it was just this insanely common thing in the future. And it's never going to be fucking common. The only time race mixing has ever been extremely common has been times of conquest when women were taken, essentially. In peaceful times, it's not fucking common. But like Spider-Man 2099 himself, he was actually half Hispanic, half white. His name is Miguel O'Hara, actually. His father's Irish. And there was this bullshit about like a female Catholic priest, because that's what the Catholic Church has in the year 2099. Although maybe they fucking will by that point. Who knows? I mean, right now there's fucking gay orgies going on at the Vatican. So, I mean, all bets are fucking off. That said, though, there was a lot of cool shit in the 2099 stuff. Like, there was a cult of Thor worshippers. And what was some other shit going on? A lot of like Ghost Rider 2099 wasn't the best book, but it was an interesting concept. It was this hacker dude who had actually somehow got his consciousness uploaded onto the internet, and he took control of some facility where he basically had a big robot body built for himself. So he's walking around and like basically imagine like the fucking Terminator skeleton wearing like a leather jacket, and it's got like holographic fire projected all around its head, and that's Ghost Rider 2099. So, you get the ghost, almost a ghost and a machine element going on with it. 2099 stuff was pretty cool. Somebody said, I just meant Spider-Man 2099 would kill people who needed killing. Oh, yeah, he wasn't opposed to that shit. He killed some motherfuckers. He let people fall to his death and that kind of thing. And his powers actually were a lot more gruesome. Like, he was actually able to climb shit because he had, like, retractable talons in the end of his fingertips and toes. And he actually had fucking venom. Like he had fucking venom fangs in his mouth. He could bite people and inject them with fucking venom. Oh, and he had the organic web shooters too. Let's see. Although I'm not actually a fan of the organic web shooters. I realize you got to take the science of this shit with a grain of salt. But I mean, male spiders generally don't produce webbing for one thing, and no spider produces them out of their limbs. So if anything, if he's making webbing, he ought to be shooting it out of like right above his asshole or something like that. Let's see. Somebody in the chat says I'm a Marxist racist. I have the weirdest fucking fans. I used to like organic web shooters, but now I prefer mechanical. Yeah, I like I said, I never really. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but I've never been a particularly big fan of it. I really like Spider-Man 2099's costume though. It's pretty badass. That would look pretty boss on the big screen. I realize Hollywood has to over-design shit. They just can't help themselves. But if they made it look kind of like the way he looked in Shattered Dimensions and then Web of Time, I think, through the two video games, I think you'd really have something cool there. Somebody says, I've been obsessed with your videos lately. That's the Marxist racist. Okay, well, I mean, I appreciate it. But I don't get how much you don't like Dragon Ball Z. I just don't think it's any good. So he says, should I buy a fidget spinner? There are some at my gas station. You know, I see them all over the place, and I don't know, maybe I got a bit of the tism too, but I'm like bored at the gas station while I'm waiting on the girl like ring up a soda or something, and I like pick the one up and like spun it. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of oddly calming. Like, oh, dude, fingers. And it is sort of like they're just fucking everywhere to the point where it's like I feel like I'm supposed to have this now. Bechtloff, how do we fight the sexual normalization of children without coming off as creepy for noticing it? That's a good question, actually. I don't know that I really have an answer. For one thing, I would like it if we stopped conflating. How should I put this? Like, fucking a teenager isn't pedophilia, okay? You know, teenagers are sexual. Whether or not they should be actually having sex is a whole different question, but they are post-pubescent. They are sexual beings at that point. So while I'm not necessarily saying you have to drastically reduce the age of consent and all, it's not pedophilia. And pedophilia, real fucking pedophilia, needs to be not conflated with that at all, because that waters it down. That's the real problem there. It waters it down. You know, fucking a 14-year-old girl as a grown man in your 30s, 40s, what have you, that's a really shitty and skeezy thing to do. But most grown men, if they see a hot 14-year-old girl walking around, 15, 16-year-old girl, they're going to notice. Their eyes are going to be drawn towards her. You know, there's going to be certain natural instincts that are going to kick in there and say, ooh, that looks nice. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But if a fucking 8-year-old walks by and your eyes are drawn to that and you're like, ooh, that looks nice, you're fucking mentally ill. And you probably ought to put a bullet in your mouth before you fucking act on that. There needs to be a distinction there. And when the left is pushing to sexualize like fucking 8-year-olds and shit like that, like they're doing, no. And as for how you point it out without coming off as creepy, I mean, there are things you can just point to, like look at what they're doing. I mean, there's videos on YouTube with this fucking bearded tranny that's trying to like teach kids how to use like little ass fucking kids how to use like dildos and shit like that. All right, that's not some sort of gray area. All right, that's not like, yeah, that's not a gray area at all. All right, that's fucking evil. Um, People are talking about the 1602 miniseries over at Marvel. Yeah, that was a pretty decent series. Um, it, yeah, it was basically, without spoiling certain things at the end of it. It's basically reimagining Marvel characters as medieval characters, and it's a good read. Neil Gaiman wrote it. It's worth checking out. Um, let's see. Bechtloff. Listen to Bechtloff. He's right. Messing around with a pubescent 14-year-old is pure asshole, but it's not pedophilia. Well, yeah, it's not. Um, my boyfriend's. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that. My brother's girlfriend's mother threatened to get the police involved and get my brother arrested for dating a 16-year-old when he's 19 because she doesn't approve and is crazy. Well, that's the interesting thing, this weird anarcho tyranny we have with sexuality in this culture, where again, a 19-year-old with a 17 or 16-year-old girlfriend can have his life ruined, and at the same time we'll push fucking 9-year-olds in salon or something like that. Somebody says, are the 2099 comics in an alternate Earth? Yes, pretty much. I guess alternate timeline would be what you call it, but yes, it's basically an alternate Earth. The thing that Marvel has done traditionally when it comes to time travel, although some writers forget this and fuck it up, is that whenever you time travel, you don't change the past, you create a new timeline. So there are tons of alternate and branching timelines in Marvel. But yes, 2099. In fact, there have actually been a couple different alternate versions of 2099, like all just slightly different timelines of 2099. Almost indistinguishable, but different things ultimately end up happening in them. Like there's one from a book called Exiles, where the Spider-Man of 2099 has his identity revealed to the public and all. Somebody says, I noticed Bechtloff has a gun for his profile pic. Who do you think he's pointing at? Well, obviously a communist. There was a story a year or so ago of a high school kid who streaked during a football game and became a registered sex offender because of it and killed himself. No joke. I don't doubt that. That shit is happening way too much. Let's see. Somebody says there's only one decent girl I know and I can't date her because she's 17 and it really ticks me off because literally everything else goes these days. Yeah, I can see that. Bechtloff, you complained about Kids Next Door yesterday, and I'm wondering what your beef with it is. Well, I just thought it was really bad writing. I just thought it was really bad. Like, it felt like the kind of show that really just talked down to kids. who you want to be kids forever and you don't want to be adult. And kids don't fucking want that. I mean, certainly they didn't when I was a kid. You know, you wanted to be adult. You know, it's why when I was a kid, all the fucking things you watched were, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were the youngest characters you fucking adored as a kid. You know, um, I mean, there were exceptions like maybe Tiny Toons or something, but that was kind of more comedy. I don't know. Kids Next Door was like half comedy, half action. I don't know. It's hard to put into words. It just felt really bad. It felt really pandering, in my opinion. Uh, I've been told that prosecutors are deliberately trying to go extremely overboard with punishing any crimes to do with sex. I don't doubt it. Like I said, it's a strange time of a narco tyranny. Um, I mean, think about it. Like when you were in high school, did your girlfriend ever like back in my day we had fucking Polaroids and shit like that, so I imagine it's more rampant now. But when you were in high school, did your girlfriend ever maybe send you a boob pic with like a Polaroid or something? And then nowadays with fucking phones, kids fucking sending pictures of their junk to each other all the fucking time because they're teenagers. Of course they are. You know what I mean? Teenagers want to fuck. Whether or not they should, but they fucking want to. All right. So yeah, teenage girls are sending fucking boob pictures to their husbands, no, to their boyfriends and shit like that. It's happening. And you know what? That boy then gets charged for having child pornography on his fucking phone because his 17-year-old girlfriend sent a picture of her tits. That's insane. That's fucking insane. Somebody said, I never understood Kids Next Door, but it must have done something right to last that long. Yeah, I guess it just fucking pandered. Uh, Sometimes pandery bullshit lasts a long time. I mean, Rugrats was nothing more than fucking gross diaper jokes, and it went for like 10 goddamn years. The girls that send pictures are often charged with distribution of child porn, too. Yeah, I mean, you know, honest to God, and maybe I can get arrested for saying this, maybe, but when I turned 18, I remember my girlfriend was a month younger than me. And I remember like on my 18th birthday, it was like maybe a day or so later, we went out to dinner, and we stopped by her place. And we fooled around afterwards, right? And we're sitting there, and then she's joking with me. She's like, "You broke the law." Like, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe I could have been, some judge could have thrown the fucking book at me or something. You know, I mean, how the fuck anyone would know, but I mean, Rugrats was fucking amazing, hilarious shit. No, that stuff was crap. Uh, uh, Outside of legitimate sexual assault or rape, no one under 20 should be put on a sex offender registry. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Um, I mean, see, again, you got to have some fucking common sense involved. I mean, yeah, if a 15-year-old is fucking a 9-year-old, that's, you know, that's a lot different than, I, you know, Teens from the age of 15 plus need a different legal designation because they certainly aren't children, but they also aren't adults. Yes. And there are some places that are more sensible with their age of consent laws. Like, actually, I believe in PA. I mean, I joked about breaking the law, but I believe in PA, it's, a month's age difference I couldn't have gotten in any trouble for. There are, if one is a minor and the other technically isn't, but there's, I think, a year difference or something, they don't. But there's places where that, where it's just a strict line in the sand, you're a child, it's 17, and the next day you turn 18 and you're an adult now, full stop, and no goddamn common sense involved. And a lot of these kids are getting the book thrown at them for, stuff that's been going on since the fucking beginning of time. It says our Puritan legacy. Yeah, I guess it is. Why is it we feel dirty just defending normal sexual relationships / dating? How screwed up is our society now? I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying teenagers should be just fucking all the damn time. I don't want, you should be waiting until marriage to be fucking somebody. That's the should, okay? But what I am saying is, like, a kid shouldn't have his fucking, world destroyed because his girlfriend, who's 6 months younger than him, gave him a hand job in the back of a car and a cop found it or something. Like, he shouldn't have his whole fucking life ruined for that. Maybe he shouldn't be doing that. Maybe she shouldn't be doing that. Sure. But, like, come on, let's fucking be, let's be reasonable about this shit, Post-Christian morals and leftist Marxist puritanical bullshit make your society all fucked up. It sure does. The age of consent should be rolling. Yeah, I agree. Age difference, the amount of age difference needs to be taken into account and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I generally would say 15 to 18 should be a kind of different designation. But at the same time, the amount of age difference needs to be a designation too. Like, okay, 15 to 18 is different than younger than 15. But at the same time, if a 14-year-old sucked a 15-year-old's dick, like, let's not end the fucking world here. You know what I'm saying? Let's not pull the nuclear option on this shit. Like, let's just all be honest about the fact that, once puberty kicks in, kids want to fuck, all right? Because, back when we were a much more wild species and we didn't have nearly this much civilization, we were pumping out babies at like girls were pumping out babies at like 15, 16, maybe 14, maybe even 13. Like, they were doing that. Now, life was about survival back then. But we still have these instincts in us, all right? So he says Jewish boys get their first blowjob at birth and they do all right. Oh, man. Ooh. That's a spicy meme right there. What he's referring to, in case you don't know, and I'm sure most of my audience knows, is that at least in the more orthodox sects, the rabbis will suck on the baby's penis after the circumcision to help the clotting. Because I guess the rabbis still think it's like 200 BC or some shit like that. God, what the fuck is wrong with those people? Um, you talk about motherfuckers need to be arrested. Um, you're probably right, Eric. I don't know what that's referring to. Scroll up. Why does America circumcise so much? Well, from what I understand, most people don't get like most. There's a difference between the full-on Jewish circumcision and like the half circumcision that a lot of babies get. I don't know. I've actually heard that it's not. I mean, yeah, in ancient times it might have served the fucking purpose of hygiene, but we have fucking soap and water on a regular basis now. It doesn't anymore. Um, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Um, let's see. Somebody said circumcision is bullshit, but it isn't anything to get hysterical over. Um, I have no idea why my parents cut my dick up. Just, just cut my dick up, fam. Uh, I don't know. I can't say I've given a lot of thought to it. Um, I have heard people argue that it does have negative psychological effects on children because, I mean, babies, you may not remember what fucking happened to you as a baby, but it still had a major impact on you. Just because you don't have conscious memories doesn't mean it didn't help shape your subconscious. And babies are learning to trust and shit like that. So, um, cut my dick in two pieces. This is my Jewish law. um, let's see. First thing out of the womb is sexual torture. Yeah, maybe that's why we're all fucked up. Maybe that's how we got so fucking degenerate as a society. It's got to be completely bananas to get us off after that. Um, all right, like the whole fucking chat is nothing but talking about circumcision. And to be honest, like it's not necessarily a topic I want to talk about in great length, guys. Um, um, Bechtloff, how much further until it's going to change? Like what society? I don't know. Somebody says Uber is supposedly a scam. Look it up. Once you look into the costs, it's just payday loan scheme. That's interesting. I don't. Again, I haven't really looked into it. So, um, somebody says, "What's on the stream tomorrow?" There is no stream tomorrow. I have mentioned this a couple of times this week. I have personal shit going on tomorrow night. There will not be a Saturday stream. Forney will be doing his own Saturday stream. If you need something to listen to, you can go check that out. But I will not be doing. I will not be doing a stream. Um, Bechtloff, is there anything you are looking forward to these days? I don't know. Like, yeah, there's still good things in life to look forward to. Um, as far as like media stuff coming out, pop culture or whatever you want to call it. Mario Odyssey looks good. I plan on I'm gonna get a Switch around the holidays. Sonic Mania looks good, although I have to admit the bullshit with the comic actually kind of sucked the wind out of my Sonic sales. And while I still want to check out Sonic Mania, it made me slightly less excited about it. What the hell? I think Thor 3 looks decent. I'll check that out when it comes out. Thor Ragnarok. Shit, I mean, not a Rick and Morty season 3. I'll check that out when it comes out. That looks decent. I like Rick and Morty. Somebody says you're holding a Saturday stream right now, Bechtloff. Yeah, I guess technically here in the East Coast I am. Somebody says, do you think fascism is the future of Western civilization? Not really. But we'll see about, better than that than Marxism. Somebody says, any chance Archie Sonic can go into custody of another company? Well, I mentioned this early on in the stream. IDW is going to be publishing Sonic comics next year. I don't know if they're going to be continuing the Archie type stuff with freedom fighters and that kind of stuff. I would hope so. I would hope they don't tend to mimic the shitty storytelling of the video games. But we'll see. I mean, IDW is a good company. They do a lot of good stuff. We'll see. Bechtloff, where do you see the comic book industry by the end of Trump's first term and subsequent second term? I think, and I'm cautiously optimistic on this, but I think we're gonna see the comic book industry start to turn around in the next few years. The reason being is comic books tend to go on rough. Let me put it this way: whether or not it's enough to turn around the good fortunes of the comic book industry, we'll see, sales-wise, financial-wise. But I think we are going to see much better storytelling coming out of Marvel and DC in the next few years, into the next decade. The reason I think that is kind of the history of the comic book industry. It's always been a good decade followed by a bad decade. You have the 40s, the golden age, beginning of superhero comics. All the foundations of the whole genre are laid there. The 50s, superhero comics were basically dead. Partly due to, the very strict comic code authority just cracking down. Come the 60s, you have the Silver Age. Modern incarnations of Flash and Green Lantern, for example. The mythos of the Green Lantern Corps. The Justice League of America over at DC, and then Marvel, obviously, almost everything about Marvel came about in the Silver Age. Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Iron Man, the X-Men, all this stuff originated in the Silver Age. Hulk, everything. Then the 70s were rough. There were some bright spots, don't get me wrong. But by and large, things were mimicking blaxploitation and kung fu movies way too much, and it was just a tough decade. Again, not that good things didn't come out of it, but rough. 80s was practically a golden age for comics. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, the original Squadron Supreme series over at Marvel, which is extremely underrated but fantastic. X-Men becoming a big thing. Now, it was kind of the late 70s, but into the 80s, X-Men, became something worthwhile for the first time ever. Spider-Man, the black costume, the creation of Venom, Secret Wars, and just fantastic stuff. The 90s were rough. Again, not to say there wasn't good stuff coming out of the 90s, but by and large, it was rough. The 2000s was an absolute fucking golden age of superhero stuff. Storylines like Batman Hush, the Totem stuff for Spider-Man, the Ultimate line, basically the entire decade of Avengers. The Justice League Avengers crossover was fantastic. Jeff Jones making DC characters relevant that hadn't been relevant in decades, like the Justice Society. His entire run on Green Lantern. The way he had revitalized the Flash in such a big way. The 2000s were just an amazing fucking decade for comics. Mark Waid did an incredible run on Fantastic Four. It's just amazing stuff. And then this past decade, it's been all paused horseshit. So if patterns hold up, we're going to be coming into a new decade here soon. Let's see. Oh, and hell, Image Comics actually produced its first worthwhile shit, I would say, in the 2000s. You had Walking Dead, Invincible, Godland, Bomb Queen. Fantastic stuff over at Image. Let's see. So he says, the art I saw in the early 2000s was amazing, but I was far too behind the stories. I wouldn't worry. Everyone says like continuity is this big thing and you'll never just fucking hop in. If you want to read stuff with like a lot of continuity behind it, just fucking hop in. And you know what? Nowadays you have the fucking internet. So if there's really something you're lost on, like who the fuck is this person? Pull out your phone and Google them real quick. But I started reading comics in the 90s when there was fucking 30 years of continuity over at Marvel. It's fine. Don't worry about it. All right. The continuity isn't a problem. If anything, it should these characters have this rich history you can discover as you go along with it. Trust me, it's fine. I realize it can be intimidating until you first dive in. When you dive in, it's fine. Don't worry about it. You'll catch up. Pardon me, I feel like I gotta sneeze. Bechtloff, do you read any mangas? Not a ton. Like I said earlier, there's a few I've read over. I've tried to, mostly because superhero comics right now are such shit that I'm sort of left wanting to branch out into stuff I've never had much interest in. But Jolly Crocodile says comics need to be made to open to new readers at every issue. That used to be something Marvel pushed for a lot. I remember when Kevin Smith was writing a Daredevil story, the editor would constantly tell him that throughout this story arc, it was like 7-issue story arc, each issue had to give a recap of what's going on in this story arc. And Kevin Smith's like, oh, isn't this redundant? Don't people get sick of this? And the editor looked at him and said, Kevin, every single issue we publish is potentially somebody's first comic book. So yeah, if continuity is done right, then there's lots of jumping on points, but no real jumping off points. It keeps you hooked. Anyway, some mangas. I read Uzumaki, the town that's haunted by the spirals. It starts off pretty good. It kind of falls apart after a while. I read some mangas based on Mega Man and Zelda games. the Minish Cap, the one based on the Minish Cap, is just incredibly charming and a lot of fun. Those are decent reads. I mean, obviously, if you're fans of the source material. I read the original Astro Boy, some of the original Astro Boy stuff. Dark Horse is republishing them in big old omnibuses. I think they're at like fucking 9 of them now or something like that. They're at least 7. I know I've seen volume 7. Pardon me. And what's really cool about the Astro Boy stuff is the art is flipped. So you can read it, from left to right, like God intended, you fucking gooks. But no, it's just easier to read if you're used to reading Western style. What else did I read? That's about it, I think. Oh, I read Rom the One Half and Attack on Titan. I thought Attack on Titan was incredibly overrated. Rom the One Half, not so much, but it doesn't quite deserve the legendary status it has, in my opinion. Somebody says Kevin Smith is the uber millennial, even if he's Gen X. I will say this about Kevin Smith now. He's a lazy sack of shit. And of course, he's a shit living all, but he has written some amazing superhero stuff. Guardian Devil is probably one of the best Daredevil stories. And he wrote Quiver, which is probably the best Green Arrow story, in my opinion. Damn near. Let's see. People are talking about white genocide. Somebody says white genocide isn't real. No, there's the elites are definitely pushing to fucking wipe out white people. There's no denying that. Bechtloff, why doesn't the church address the hatred white children are being taught to believe? I saw a little video of a little girl. She hates being white. Why does the church address this? Well, I know conservative evangelicalism is just, they're so concerned with being colorblind, which isn't necessarily that bad of a goal for a church, that they're ignoring the real anti-white shit. And they don't want to be accused of being racist. It's typical conservative shit. That's why, when the Southern Baptist Convention, they denounced the alt-right for white supremism, but they had nothing to say about, say, Black Lives Matter or La Raza or any other racial separatist / supremacy / nationalist organization. So there is some conservatism going on. As for why there isn't any in the Catholic Church, I couldn't tell you, other than the fact that I think the Catholic Church is, the interest of Europeans no longer seems to be much of a priority for the Catholic Church these days. I think the leadership would much prefer nothing but a sea of our-type brown people for their church. And I'll leave the why to your imagination there. Somebody says, after the first 20 episodes, Ramna's stories only had one recurring plot. It's never been bad, but it's not that good either. Well, the one I got, it was supposedly volumes 1 and 2 put in a book together. I got it like a few months ago, but it wasn't bad, but let's see. Let's see. The elites want to kill Western culture. They couldn't care less about what race it is. Do they hate Western culture because it's white, or do they hate whites because they promote Western culture? I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's very obvious they hate both. Sort of a chicken and the egg thing, though. Bechtloff care to elaborate on whites needing to get right with God again to save themselves? Well, I think that's pretty fucking self-evident. I mean, I don't know what else you need me to elaborate on that for, you know? Everyone's like, oh, survival of the white race. Well, you know, the white race wants to survive. The white race needs to be worthy of surviving. Have you seen The Handmaid's Tale? I have not. I don't have any interest in it. Let's see. I'll probably wrap this up here. I think we've gone on long enough. Okay, so to reiterate, there will not be a Saturday show tomorrow or here in the East Coast later today, technically. I have shit going on. Just can't do it. Forney will be doing his own show. If you want to check, you know, if you need something to listen to, check that out. You know, if you're a fan of me, odds are you're a fan of Forney. I realize not everyone who likes this show likes Forney. It's fine. But there it is. He'll be doing his own stream. My former sidekick, our William Rome, will be on it too. And obviously, if you enjoy the show, you know, there is the tip jar down below there. Tips of any size are greatly appreciated. That helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And I cannot stress this point enough. And I don't say this merely to be self-serving, but you should support the alternative medias you enjoy. Whether that's this live stream, you know, if you enjoy it, your donations are greatly appreciated. But that's anything really. If you're a big fan of Christopher Cantwell, you know, or Stefan Molyneux, or the fucking InfoWars guys, or, you know, like whatever, you know, buy them fucking water filters over at InfoWars. Support the alternative media you enjoy, that you find real value in. That's a very good thing to do. You should be doing that. And if that's me, I greatly appreciate that. What the hell else did I want? Oh, yeah. The VidMe channel. Check out the VidMe channel. I got 3 vids on there right now. A fun fact about the Amish is the Atari 2600 worth getting into for retro gamers, and the Legend of Super Mario, or Indiana Jones of Mario. The Legend of Indiana Jones Mario. There's a DSB video coming down the pike. And then after that is going to be the probably 5. I might expand the list to 10, but probably 5. The 5 things that are popular that I just don't get. One of them is going to be Dragon Ball Z, because I just don't fucking see the appeal there. But yeah, well, do check out the VidMe channel. Good stuff there. Also, if you enjoy the show, you know, you don't have $1 in your pocket to toss me, you know, you don't have no shekels to give, you can at least like, comment, and subscribe. That helps this channel grow. And you know, if you have VidMe, go over there and subscribe to that channel as well. So yeah, that's all I got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening, and as soon as I can get this window up here, we'll be signing off. Bechtloff out.